It's time for all treats and no tricks with an Evercade special that will leave you howling with laughter. Let's get this party started. So something like that, but less shit. Happy Halloween retro fans, Games Apprentice back with another Evercade video. With Halloween right around the corner and my channel just having had its first birthday, I decided to take a look back over the 30 plus Evercade collections I've reviewed and picked out the top 10 games that are the most spectacular. I've tried to pick games that stick to a horror theme, certainly not ones that are scary because the choices will be pretty limited. So without further ado, here are my top 10 games to play on the Evercade this Halloween. There's nothing quite like starting out a top 10 with 2 games in one spot. Proper cop-out. But being the 2 most light-hearted games on the list and being equally shit, I felt they deserved to both be included. Both are platform games, but beyond that and the cutesy style, they play very differently. Demon's World is a more traditional platformer with running, jumping and frolicking, whereas Tumble is a more arcade platformer with a sort of Ghostbusters vibe. Tumble I reviewed as part of the Data Arcade collection back in November last year. It's an arcade game for 2 people where you suck up enemies with your Luigi's Mansion style vacuum and launch them around the screen for points. If you enjoy a good sucking and blowing joke, then I suggest you watch that review. Demon's World was reviewed more recently in April of this year as part of the Toplan 2 collection. Again, it's an arcade game for up to 2 people. In this one you're armed with a gun and a pair of sunglasses and you shoot various demonic creatures. It's not the best side-scrolling shooter that I found had some questionable hit detection, making it very difficult. But there's no denying that this is a Halloween-themed game. One of the scariest things about Halloween this year was the thought of having to play the Immortal again. For some reason this game genuinely gives me anxiety. Maybe it was seeing heads crack open in its ultra-realistic visuals, as I was far too young, or maybe it's just because I hate it. But it wouldn't be an Evercade video without me having to play a game I don't like. Saying that, I'm not going to play this again, I'm just going to reuse old footage because that'd be stupid. Just like it was back on the excellent Pico Collection 1 that I reviewed back in February, the Immortal is fairly low down on this list. It's an isometric dungeon crawler filled with chatting, traps, finding objects, more traps, and a battle system where I've never had any clue what's going on and what I'm meant to be doing, just sometimes someone's head will explode. It's quite atmospheric and has violent visuals, which gives it the criteria that I felt needed it to make this list. I'll start by saying I really like Glass. The gameplay is decent, but the presentation all falls into the so shit it's good category, and that's a category that I feel is all the more enjoyable at Halloween. This game was on the Galeco Arcade 1 collection that I reviewed back in January. Glass is a shooter, which you control a fat Metroid ship flying around a 2-dimensional hell, being attacked by skeletons, zombies and blokes that all just walk around the 2D space in a floaty manner, as well as various other demons. Trying to think about it too much. On top of this you get the unnecessary sexualised character select screen and the reward of unlocking the silhouette of a woman. None of it makes a lot of sense, but it's fun. Stupid fun, which is often the best kind. Eye of the Crow Maiden features skeletons, ghosts and crows. For me, that's enough to make it onto this list. It was slim pickings, alright? Its lack of other Halloween elements keep it so far down the list, but it's certainly one of the best games on here. Its colourful, non-Halloween style palette and its sweet non-Halloween style music make it an enjoyable experience that I originally reviewed back in February on the Indie Heroes 2 collection. It's an action platformer where you can tell crows to attack people, and who amongst you didn't one day dream of commanding an army of crows? It's challenging but fun for anyone that's far too scared to play a remotely Halloween-themed Halloween game this Halloween. Halloween! Creepy Brawlers is Punch-Out, but with horror movie characters. Initially reviewed last December as part of the Megacat Studios Collection 1, I found Creepy Brawlers to be a fun game, but one not without its problems crashing on me a couple of times. The game's premise is basically that you're in a cinema watching a horror movie, and a giant hand pulls you in, so you naturally start having boxing matches with whatever B-movie horror baddies show up. with what appears to be a green Addams Family's thing as the referee. It absolutely feels at home on Halloween, with half the fun just seeing which horror movie staples you get to wail on next. Of all the games on this list, this is probably the one I'm going to try play a bit more of this Halloween. Coming in at number 5 on this list feels like the sort of thing it would have to print on the box, as I can't imagine it was exactly swamped with accolades. Originally reviewed as part of the Atari Lynx Collection 1 back in February, Dracula is an adventure game about, unsurprisingly, Dracula. It plays mostly like a point and click with the occasional scaling of the building segment. Complete with old man reading a book, it's absolutely perfect for Halloween. Plus, stick some headphones on and play this one on the Evercade handheld, the lights off, and you might just shit yourself. That's what happened to me, although I guess if you soil your pants often enough, eventually it's bound to happen during a bad horror game. I'd add a few more jokes here, but my vampire jokes suck. Easily the best game on this list, and I think the best game I've played on the Evercade so far, is Cathedral. I'm a big fan of the Metroidvania genre, and I think Cathedral is massively underrated in that genre. Part of the indie double cart with the very good Always Awakening, a cart that I reviewed in November last year. Due to some technical issues of a corrupt game save, I was very angry on reviewing this, and what would have been a very strong score, I ended up not giving a score to, as I didn't know how widespread the save game corruption was. It's happened on other Evercade games since then, but all other Evercade games allow for save state, so it's less of a problem. Looking back retrospectively, even with the save game corruption, I put a lot more time into this game than any other game on the system. Basically what I'm saying is if you like Metroidvania games, go play Cathedral, just go play it on something else. Cathedral is difficult with a steep learning curve, and it copies a lot of ideas from other games, but it does all this really well, and getting anywhere on it feels like an accomplishment. Beyond the difficulty, it's not particularly scary or atmospheric, but the setting and enemies definitely bring this into the Halloween games category. Now generally I don't class Aliens as Halloween themed, which is why this list is missing things like Xenocrisis. However, Alien Breed does the atmospheric side better than almost any other game on the Evercade, so I felt like it had to make this list. In Alien Breed, you shoot through aliens, trying to make your way through an underground complex. It's a very difficult game with some odd design choices. I reviewed this as part of the Team 17 collection back in May, and although I much preferred the third game in the series, the original felt a lot more atmospheric and a lot more of a survival horror with its difficulty, making it perfect for Halloween. Now, I always hated Splatterhouse games as a kid, but to be fair, I never played Splatterhouse 3. I reviewed this one back on the Namco Collection 2 back in April, which also contained Splatterhouse 2. Whilst some of the animations in Splatterhouse 2 were a lot more horrific, Splatterhouse 3 was a much better game. It's a beat 'em up where you must make your way through a mansion of horrors to try and find what I presume is your girlfriend, as the infamous Splatterhouse protagonist, guy who looks a bit like Jason from Friday the 13th. Unlike most traditional beat 'em ups, this one allows you to choose your path through the mansion, which feels slightly less linear. Once guy who looks a bit like Jason from Friday the 13th gains enough, I don't know, let's call it spirit power, he basically hulks up into super guy who looks a bit like Jason from Friday the 13th, letting you smash through enemies. It's a fun game and definitely worth checking out this Halloween. Really, there was no other game that could go at the top of this list, other than Deus, being that it's the only game on this list that also got my coveted prize of Gem of the Week when I reviewed it back in January on the Indie Heroes Collection 1. Well, here you go, Deus, have another one. Deus is a very unique time loop game. It doesn't offer much in the way of action, as it's basically a puzzle game, I guess. You have 3 days to walk around, talk to people, and pick up objects, and your actions will result in one of the many multiple endings, each time unlocking more of the mystery of exactly what's going on. Its cutesy art style, with the juxtaposition of its themes and atmosphere, magnify it all the more to make it seem even more sinister. It creates tense atmosphere particularly well, and memories of it will haunt you long after you've finished playing it. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video and found something that you can check out this Halloween. Let me know what you're playing in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to help it grow and for more of my content. I'll catch you next time. Happy Halloween.